Hey guys, I just have my coffee right here and I wanted to just sit down and talk. You probably have seen my most recent blog post, but if you didn't, I basically just talked about how, you know, in the season of life before the current one, I was doing so well. I was, living each day with such joy, with such strength. With such positivity and with a really, what's the word for it? With a really gracious heart. And I wasn't really struggling with anything in particular. I mean, each day had its stressors and all that. But for the most part, I was, feeling really good about myself and really good about the year. But in the past few weeks, as September has rolled in and as I have started school, I have started to deal with a lot of old things that I thought were gone for good. And these are things that I have dealt with and fought with for probably the past 6 years now. And it feels like, there's no end to it. Right when I think, maybe this is the final time, it feels as if I have fallen again. And that really makes you feel like a failure, whether that's because it's a physical, emotional, academic, spiritual thing. The fact that it comes up and up again and again really messes with you, it messes with your outlook on your future. It makes you think, maybe this is what I'm gonna be stuck with for the rest of my life. And it sucks because you don't want to think that you're never gonna be able to move past that part of your life or overcome that. And it makes you feel a little like a loser. I feel like in mental health specifically and in certain diseases like cancer, we put such emphasis on surviving and beating and overcoming, whatever illness that we have. But I think that also has this other implication, or maybe it's the people dealing with it that infer this, that if you don't somehow overcome it, or if you continue to relapse, that you're a loser or that you're a failure. And obviously no one would ever say that about someone who is dealing with a physical illness, but maybe that's what we secretly think about those who are dealing with mental illness. I will be the first to say that I have had many moments where I felt like I failed myself because of whatever, mental illness I relapsed with. And it's hard because you're constantly bombarded with these voices that say that, no, you're not a loser, or I know you can do it, I know you can overcome it, or, the sun will rise again, and all these really positive comments that I know are usually encouraging. But in those really low moments, when you look back on your past and see all the times you've, fallen down again, it makes you think, maybe I really can't overcome this, or maybe, something's wrong with me because I can't overcome this. But that's what I've been reflecting on today. Because the truth is, as I said, life ebbs and flows, life has seasons, and some of us do struggle with the same thing over and over again, depending on what that is. And it's hard, and it takes so much grit to get through it and to not quit. Oh my gosh, that all rhymed. Totally unintentional. But some of us will struggle with different things, and whatever that thing that we're struggling with will evolve. And there's no right or wrong in that. I think it's also important to take care of yourself and to love yourself despite whatever it is that you're going through, because ultimately life may trigger certain demons in your life, and maybe that's why you're continuing to struggle with it. I know that for me, certain, what's the word for it? Certain obstacles, I guess, come up because of things like stress, or depending on where I am in my cycle, and depending on the weather even, like I do deal with seasonal affective disorder, and that does, affect my day-to-day at times. So all in all, I guess my only piece of advice is to just keep going and to keep fighting, and get out of that mindset of I have to win this, or I'm going to be a loser, or I have to overcome this, or else I'm a failure. That's not what life is about. Life isn't about being a winner or a loser, successful or a failure. We constantly feel the need to be measured against all these scales and assessments of like how well we're doing in our life. But I think in the end, you're the only one that can determine that. And it's hard not to look at yourself critically and to point out all the things that you're doing wrong. But I think that it takes patience and time to be able to really trust yourself and be kind to yourself. And I don't believe that I am a failure. I feel like one sometimes, but I don't consider myself a failure. I know that for me personally, being a Christian, I already fall short of the glory of God. And so in already being a failure in terms of, the condition of my heart and my nature as a sinful human, I know that I can't fail God anymore because I already have to the lowest point, if that makes any sense. But acknowledge that you're not perfect and that life's not perfect, and you'll come to realize that as long as you continue to take each day by day, moment by moment, there's no such thing as doing it badly, I guess is what I want to say. I'm sorry, I've just been rambling now for almost 7 minutes. But yeah, I guess my takeaway point is that, we're all trying our best. We're all doing our best. And, whether you continue to struggle with the same thing or whether that evolves into something else, we're all struggling, and that's okay. And, as there are great seasons of happiness, there are also pretty crappy seasons of difficulty and maybe depression or sadness. But it ebbs and flows. Life ebbs and flows. And I've probably said the same thing over and over again, but I'm going to say it again. Life ebbs and flows. And just because you're in a good season now doesn't mean you have to, brace yourself for the bad season. But if you're in a bad season now, prepare yourself for the good season because it's coming. And also, just because you're not in a not so great season doesn't mean you can't still appreciate and find joy in that part of your life. You totally can, through really small things and through really big things. I think gratitude is a huge part of how I came to find so much joy in my life. And from a Christian perspective, God doesn't promise us that we'll be happy all the time, but He commands us to find joy through the life of Jesus and through our relationship with Christ. And so, I think that's another source for me. And so if you're Christian or if you're religious, find joy in your spiritual beliefs and in your spiritual practice and in really becoming one with whatever it is that you believe in. So yeah, okay, this video is getting too long now, but thank you guys for listening, and let me know if you want to talk. I'm always here. My inbox is always open, and yeah.